Well, hello, everyone. Two old men and Bob here. We were just hanging out, watching Charlie stream, and decided, Charlie ended up. Let's hang out with some guys for a little while.
Kick it.
Live number 4 today.
Live number 4.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, we were just hanging out. Figured we'd hang out with everybody, see what everybody had going on. Since we had to wait a few extra moments for Todd to relieve himself before we could go live.
Roy wanted to go to bed. Now he's going to stay up.
I really had to go.
Sorry, Roy.
Sorry, Roy. I don't know if it's going to be worth that much, but we'll do what we can.
Yeah, you might be disappointed.
All right, so let's do something challenging. Let's have a Beechat and not talk about mites and mite treatments.
And not talk about the weather.
Not talk about the weather. And what else can we not talk about and still have a Beechat?
I
don't know. We'll not talk about it if we think about it.
Charlie talked all about demeries, so we can't talk about demeries because that's been done tonight.
That's been done tonight. Splits have been done tonight. How about spring buildup?
There you go.
That's when for another 4 months.
Well, for you. But Todd and I,
this shit out here.
So Todd and I are basically on the same longitude.
Yeah.
Or is that latitude? Latitude.
Yeah.
Latitude and longitude.
You're not the one that's been drinking, and I know that's latitude.
So it's like the ominous dominus there.
Dominus.
So we're talking about the dominus and not the ominous, right? But so when do you, Todd, decide, you know what? I'm going to go slap some pollen on these bad girls out here.
I do it by the calendar, but this year I think is going to be early for me because I'm starting to see the first signs of fiddleneck, which is a weed that pops up, and that's when I know it's go time. That's when I start grafting. So what is it? Middle of January. It's a month early. So I think everybody's going to have an early year. At least that's what the weeds are telling me here.
So we won't talk about weather precisely because we're not talking weather.
Can't talk about the weather.
So we don't care if it's raining or anything. But is the temperature?
Seasons. You can talk about seasons.
Is the temperature normal, below or above average right now?
Yesterday was 65 degrees. Today was, I think, 64. For anybody up in Canada, that would be 18, around 18, 19. So it's not normal. What else? So the weed is telling me that things are changing, and if I need to start feeding pollen, it's like tomorrow, which I don't have pollen patties out, but I do have dry pollen in spots around the farm.
So I was a little preemptive with that. Like last week or the week before, I actually mixed up some pollen patties. But I still have some of my Man-like Ultra Bee patties out there. So last year, I believe I put them on in December. I want to say it was either November or December that I put on some pollen. I didn't do that this year, but I'm thinking that the next warm enough day, that's when I'm going to do it, to just try to get them to start getting in the right direction, right? And we'll see what we have. Y'all woke me up. Yeah. You had a live today too.
Yeah, there was all kinds of stuff going on.
Everybody is doing bees, so it's getting close, except for Brad.
Yeah.
Nope.
Like Brad's still 6 months away.
Well, 4.
What is coming up for Brad though is a kick-ass bee conference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's only 30 days away.
With the king beekeeper himself.
Bob Biddy, come on down. You're the next contestant
Bob.
at the Manitoba Beekeepers Association meeting.
You betcha. You betcha.
The Roy says it seems like a normal winter in northern Michigan, so maybe take a peek in April on feed stores.
I told Bob today that I'd save some seasonal weather for him when he arrives.
Oh yeah. If he hits what I hit, he's gonna be excited. Well,
oh yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. I'll tell you what, if I had the money, I'd be there for sure. No worries. It would happen. That was just the best time.
I'm glad you had a good time. I had a good time too. It was really
Todd was going to go, but he decided to go to Missouri instead.
No, work got away from me. I have training that week for
yeah, it's all about work.
So you're not going to Missouri either?
No, I'm going to Missouri, but I wanted to go to Canada, but I have trainings for a new program that I'm overseeing that week, that whole week. It would be the next week. So the only way I'd get up there would be like Friday, Saturday, and come back Sunday. I didn't want to do that. I want to stay up there for a week. You know, make some runs with Brad to some of those nice shops with.
You can't be saying making runs when you just went to the bathroom.
I already went. What the hell? What do you mean? I'm not lost. I'm back here.
You're talking about making runs.
Making runs.
No,
I was going to make runs tonight.
Yeah, you could come up here and we could go do some deliveries together. I'll introduce you to some of my shopkeepers and stuff.
Yeah.
And
especially one shopkeeper.
Right.
Well,
exactly right.
You only met one, Bob.
That's all I needed to meet. My life is complete.
I've seen a couple. Let's just put it like that.
Next time you go in there, you'd be like, you made a really big impression on my friend from the States.
Yeah. Yeah, I love my shopkeepers. They're really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The PCBA, what's that? Pennsylvania? PCBA.
Pacific Coast Bee Association. I don't know.
The Polychlorinated Biphenyl Association.
Bill said he had
polycarbonate.
Bill, are you in South Florida? Georgia. What part of Georgia are you in?
Oh, Pueblo County. Pueblo County.
Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Colorado.
Pueblo. One day I'll be that guy that can just travel the country. One day somebody will actually ask me to come and speak at one of these conferences. I see all these other people that I'm like, well, they have as much qualifications as I do.
I'm actually speaking to the PCBA in a week and a half or so.
Oh, are you?
I am. Getting on the circuit.
See, look at you. Look at you.
Getting on the circuit.
What's my speaker's fee? I'm negotiable. Until I'm in high demand, it's negotiable.
He works for Jujubes.
Hell, I work for free on YouTube, it seems like.
I work for cheeseburgers.
We'll work for donuts.
Yeah. Donuts.
Roy says he's surrounded by celebrities tonight. I just with Beechats, I like to keep this one light and jovial and joking, right?
And
I say that
among
because,
friends, right?
Yeah, it just seems like every chat you go on, and I'm not trying to be critical because beekeeping, you talk about the same stuff, right? All the time. It's the same stuff. Yeah. And it just gets so is mundane a good word for that? Well, I don't know.
It can. However, here's the key. You can talk about the same thing 100 times, but 25 of those times there's a new nuance that comes in there that you hadn't thought of. Or
you get a little nugget every now and again.
piece of information or a new opinion or a new experience, or you meet a new person and they've had a different experience. So it's the same topic. It's the same boring old thing that you've talked about. But once in a while, there's that little nugget that comes. It's like watching a Randy Oliver presentation. I watch those things over and over because he'll be talking about topic A, and he'll go through the whole presentation and he'll mention topic B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P through that presentation. He won't go into depth always on those topics, but he'll mention them and he'll say things about them. And so I watch those presentations over and over, and those nuggets, they just come popping out of there and like a light bulb. And it's like, what did he just say? Right. And you can learn so much about things like that. It's a presentation. It's Randy Oliver, so you're always going to watch, but he's talking about the same old thing that you've heard 100 times, but you watch for the nuggets.
Right.
Because he drops those nuggets all the time. You think that's what you want.
Remember the talk that we had last year about Queen Mary and all those nuggets that we went down a rabbit hole?
And that was that talk that he did, right? Right full of nuggets.
Yeah.
It's, and sometimes I guess when you have the conversation, right, it's not always what's being said, but how it's being said as well, right? Yeah. So somebody might say something and you might say the same thing, but you just present it a little bit different. And somebody's like, ding, so yeah, I get it. But I can only talk about oxalic acid so many times. And it's like, choke me. It's like, I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Well, there's only so much. Yeah. Supposition and guesses and imaginations and how things work. You could talk about this stuff too, but
Well, all right. So one of the topics we weren't going to talk about is mites, but we'll talk about it. So here's the thing. I haven't been drinking, but this is going to be the drunk Bob speech.
Talking about mites. Todd, didn't we tell him to?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the rule?
He's going off script.
And he made up the rules.
Yeah, he did. Dominus.
Well, the thing is, for me, is in the 6 years plus now that I've been beekeeping, which granted is not a long time. I haven't been doing this my whole life. I didn't have dads and grandfathers beekeeping, and I wasn't in that, right? That's not me. I haven't been beekeeping since I was 3, like some people claim, and all that. So I get it. However, when I started beekeeping, oxalic acid, you got to do the oxalic acid. Then, then this comes out, and this is better than oxalic acid. And then next year this is better than that and the oxalic acid, but we still do oxalic acid because why not? We got the oxalic acid, and it's just constant. It's like, shut up. If it's not good, don't do it anymore. Just stop. If there's something better, stop doing the first thing and do the better thing. Save yourself some money. And sorry, that's my rant.
Yeah, well, I get that. All these treatments, though, they've all got an upside and a downside, right? They've all got it. And that's what, when I go to presentations or I hear a manufacturer or somebody, they talk about their latest treatment, they say, it's really great, really great, really great. And then you listen to the whole presentation and then you go, but what about, this one thing? And they go, oh, it's sort of like deer in the headlights. Oh, they found the chink in the armor, right?
Right.
It's kind of like, so what's the temperature range that'll work at? Or how many of those can my crew apply in a day? How many times do I have to go back and address that colony for that treatment regime? What's the efficacy of it, and what's the restriction as far as efficacy and brood production goes? And so they're all right. Oxalic acid, that's the golden, the silver bullet, right?
Right.
You got any brood? Nah, ain't gonna work. Right.
So now, prime example. When I first started, oh, you do oxalic acid once in the spring and once a month for 3 months over the winter. That was it. And then it was, oh, but if you have brood, which we always seem to have a little bit of brood down here, oh, now it's better to do it. What was it? Once a week for 3 weeks is what it was, right? And then it's, oh, but if you really want to kill the mites, that works fine. But if you really want to kill mites, you got to do it once every 2 days or 3 days for 21 days. I'm like, oh, but you're only supposed to use 1 gram of oxalic acid. But, oh, wait a minute. But that don't really do it. So you got to use at least 2.
Yeah.
Now, 1
gram is the rule, but
but 2 grams doesn't work. So I use 4 grams. But you can't use 4 grams because that's not what the label says, and that's against the law. So the shit don't work is what you're telling me. You just found 5 ways to tell me the shit does not work.
Link Kilby from Newfoundland. Welcome.
So
if that wasn't drunk Bob, he's an angry drunk.
No, Bob's a happy drunk. And I'm actually in a good mood. I'm just trying to exemplify that every year
you're right.
We have this magic product called oxalic acid. And every year they try to ram it up your butthole that it's the best thing
I was waiting for it.
that it's the best thing ever. And every year for the past 6 years, there's been a different method to use oxalic acid on a different time frame and a different method to put it in there. And we still have the same problem.
Yeah.
So that's telling me it's not working. It's not working.
It is working, and it does work, but there's some serious restrictions, and that's brood, right? And that's why the extended release, they're trying to get that going, and because oxalic acid itself is highly effective to kill those mites. It's highly effective. It's just that brood, the presence of brood.
Okay, so then you could actually say, well, this works in certain geographic locations. So someone like me, or in Florida, where we have brood all year long, it's not as effective.
Go to your hive. Okay, I'm not.
I'm gonna go whisper to my queen. Hey, stop laying for about 3 weeks.
Knock it off. Yeah.
Hey,
go to your hive. Take out all the sealed brood, and throw it in your deep freeze, and then oxalic acid your colony. You're going to kill some mites.
Well, that's the whole thing, Doug. They haven't found what actually works, because if they did, it wouldn't be an issue.
The three of us know of somebody that's working on something right now that might do something. We'll have to wait and see. It might be a little ways off, but it has the possibilities, from what I understand.
What I would like to see is something that kills those viruses, because it's the viruses that are killing my bees.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not the mites that are killing my bees.
Nope.
The mites ain't doing them any good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not killing the bees. It's the viruses that are killing the bees. And nobody's talking about viruses. Nobody's talking about viruses.
And apparently, this guy is kind of zeroed in on that fact. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So I mean, it's obviously, guys. I'm throwing a little bit of shade at it. I'm just saying that we talk about it over and over and over and over again, and yes, it does kill mites, right? There's lots of things that kill some mites, but the thing is that, is it enough, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. And we've talked about several products, and it seems like they all work to some degree, but you end up having to do that and something else to just keep it manageable.
Yeah.
You don't wipe them out, you just keep them manageable, right?
So
Newfoundland, we could move the Newfoundland and Foundland.
Well, look in the chat. Link Link is
No
from
mites.
Newfoundland.
So
And,
Bill Lee,
no mites.
Bill Lee brings up a good question that I brought up last night
Yeah.
on Ricky's chat. So with the new trophy laylops, what viruses do we know that they are bringing? And apparently the answer is, as far as I know, they're already known. That it's what the Varroa is given out. So in effect, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing, because now we don't have to worry about a different virus that could be
new virus,
catastrophic, right? So if we can, going back to what you said, Brad, if we could tackle the viruses instead of the mites,
right,
we've lessened the risk that they give to the bees. So
and I'll stick by my guns. You know, when people start going on and on and on about environmental conditions and climate change and chemicals in the environment and everything, you know what? Yeah,
It's those damn chemtrails.
All of the, don't get me started. Don't get me started. And and you know what? All of that stuff has effects.
Yeah.
That's not what's killing your bees, man. If you got rid of mites and viruses, your bees would be fine. With all of the rest of that stuff in the environment, they would be fine.
Yeah.
They would, they would have a bit of an effect, but nothing like that is 0.05% of what's harming your bees compared to what's going on with all these mites and viruses. Viruses specifically, they're 99.99% of your problem, in my opinion. If you got rid of that virus problem, you would forget about everything else. You'd just say, well, it's not worth bothering with these chemicals.
I look at it this way. So in an analogy type of way, how do you get sunburned? You get sunburned by the sun. Take away the sun, you're not going to get sunburned. Right? So in effect,
that's on the beach in the dark.
Well, okay, that's a good analogy, Todd. You can get a sunburn from a bedside lamp. Yes, you do.
Well,
it's UV rays.
If I put a special bulb in it, yeah, I guess so.
Just about any bulb. So this is what I'm saying. This is the analogy. You can get a sunburn from a bedside lamp. Is that a problem for you? No, you're not worrying about the bedside lamp. You're worrying about putting sunscreen on when you go outside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the fact that we're worrying about somebody using Roundup next door is the bedside lamp.
Mm-hmm.
That's not your problem. The viruses are killing your bees.
Yep.
Guy using Roundup.
Well, let me ask this question then, since we're on this topic. Why is it a colony can move? Let's say it swarms out of one of your hives, and it can move underneath a double-wide mobile home in the floorboard and live for years.
Oh, they live in a gas tank of a car.
That's what I'm saying. But why is it they can go into those environments when they're just on their own? And that's why I showed Doug's comment there. And they can move on their own to a location out of your beehive, and they live fine by themselves.
Yeah.
And Doug's absolutely right. Let them do it. I think the mistake that we did in 1987 was to form all these chemicals to kill the mites when we should have just let the bees take care of them themselves.
The trouble is, you're going to destroy an industry and let it rebuild over the next 20 years.
I get it.
That's the ripping the Band-Aid off thing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make a decision. That's a tough way to go. What I would like to know from Link in Newfoundland, have you ever had any of your bees tested by a virology lab, a diagnostic lab? Have you had your bees tested for these viruses that we talk about, all the main viruses that they're aware of? There's about a dozen of them. So I would really like to know, because is it possible that your bees have some viruses even without mites? I'm thinking probably not, but maybe it is. So I would really like to know if you've had your bees Your bees tested. It's
Thank
not
you,
greed
Steve.
either. It's people making a living. If you want to shut down an entire industry, that's not an easy decision to make at all.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
but
saying it was the right decision in the big picture, but think about it. You're going to take an entire industry and just chop his head off like that.
well,
That's a tough call.
it is a tough call. But I mean, uh, what's more important, to have the survival of bees or to have the survival of an industry that depends on bees?
That's what you have to weigh,
So,
right? That's
yeah,
what you have
it's
to
a
weigh.
tough deal. I get it. But I was just saying, I think it was a mistake. But obviously, we go on. We've been doing this for 40 years, haven't been able to find anything that gets them.
Look who we got. Look who we have, ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
Well,
From
one tree bee farm.
mes amis. Comment ça va?
Lagrange.
Doing okay.
Good.
Speak my native tongue.
Huh? Well, it's actually pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Yep.
You've been practicing, Brad?
He learned it off the cereal boxes.
Yeah, I learned it off the cereal box. Flacon du May.
So how you guys been doing?
Doing
We're
good.
just having fun.
The bigger question is, how have you been doing? We haven't seen you around for a while.
So
yeah.
Blake said that they do
During
test
winter,
their
I think
bees, and I assume that you're not finding any viruses at all. Is that correct? You got a super chat, Bob.
Yes, I shared it on the screen.
That's very nice.
All right, let me.
Steve is my hero tonight. But so last we spoke, Alex, you had sold some bulk honey to somebody.
Yeah, for my second batch.
You sold two of them.
He bought 64 gallons.
Holy cow!
64 gallons. You go,
54.
boy.
54.
Oh,
54.
A barrel.
That's like 10 buckets or 11 buckets.
Last time I sold him honey, the 50 gallon,
pounds?
he traded me 6-gallon buckets. So what I did is I transferred my 5 gallons into his 6, and I asked them first, like, I still have 5 gallons of the type of honey you want, but I don't want to mix them. Do you want me to fill those last 4 with 1 extra gallon each? And they said yes. So 54.
Nice. And that's still from last year's harvest?
This was part of it. It was this year's. Yes. No, this was this year's harvest with the last 4 from last year.
Yeah.
I still have difficulty selling to like individuals, but I have a few like regular clients that come to my house and buy small quantities.
Well, at least your honey supply didn't fall through the floor from being stacked up in that extra room.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, it was.
Way to go, Alex.
It was getting like I had at least 17 buckets. No,
So-
close to 30.
Alex, remind me, how did you make that contact? How did you meet this person and whatnot?
Oh wow, that's it's the first person I called asking him if he knew people who bought bulk honey. He's the guy that sold me my bees after I failed on my first year.
And he said, in the words of Obi-Wan, know him, I am him.
Yeah, pretty much. He said, "You have honey for sale?" Yeah, I had a lot of losses, and I won't be able to keep up with the demand. So, do you have some for sale?
No
At
kidding.
first, I gave him McNally's prices. $5.93 was too much for him, and I made a bit of research, and I found out that that costs none. Is it Costco or Walmart sells the 5-gallon pails at essentially $4.70 a pound. So I called him back. I said I sell at $4.23, and yeah,
That's a good price, Alex. That's a good price.
I know. So
Now
but
you should ask him,
except-
can you put a display up in there and sell, this is the honey we make all of our mead with, and they can buy your honey.
I could ask him. I haven't spoken with him since before the holidays, which, man, they ended like two of my family members were in critical condition after New Year's, so that's one of the reasons I haven't been on much. Yeah,
It's too bad.
my grandma and my uncle both got really, really sick.
No.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
So that would be my negotiation. That when next time he calls for an order and say, I gave you a good deal on that honey last time, and I'll still honor that, but I need a favor from you to be able to honor that. If I could put some of my jars of honey as a display, nice display in your lobby as a trade-off, like a rental, right? And that way you're selling directly to the customer through your display, and you might be able to usurp that whole needing to use a commercial kitchen thing because you're selling directly to the customer. It just happens to be sitting there, right? Basically, they collect the money and just pay you for what they sold in their store.
Yeah, that's
an
an idea. I still think I should at least do once a year the commercial, so I have the paperwork. So
no, I'm not saying to not sell him commercial. Sell him the commercial, but then have a little display that they can buy the retail honey there. And then, that's just another outlet. Because, you got your foot in the door now. As long as you can supply this guy's needs, and he's happy with you, he won't go anywhere else. I say guy, person, it could be a female. I don't know.
And Alex, I know you have an issue sometimes with selling to people, but you have different avenues? Like, for instance, down here we have Facebook Marketplace where you can advertise for free, and they can see your product and buy it that way. Then you could ship it to them, or you could do Shopify, or there's other ways to do it besides being a person-to-person deal. Have you thought of that?
Yeah, I haven't opened the Facebook because now I essentially have no more honey. I do have some left, but the guy purchased almost.
Of course, when you have some, these are different avenues you could go down.
But
not like right now. But
do you got enough honey to supply him until you have more honey?
Doesn't sound like
I have. Well, when I say I don't have much honey left, I still have 10 pails.
Son of a bitch.
How much is a pail?
That's 500 pounds.
Gallon? Oh,
at least.
Okay.
Well, 5-gallon pails, it's 6.
Well, you got enough.
You got my whole last year's harvest sitting in your spare bedroom right now.
You have enough. What are you worried about? Yeah, you could do it ways like that. Advertise online, and ship it, and you never see the person. You do the electronic transfer, and boom, Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle.
I forgot. I should have done that, Brad.
Bob's your uncle.
And I'm replying to
He's not saying Bob's your daddy.
Replying to DC's comment because
say that.
I haven't been able to reply by text. No, not right now. I don't have the money for a pickup truck. But all my debts are paid, so money's starting to go back
Good
up.
for you, man.
There you go.
The American thing. Go back into debt.
I want to avoid that as much as possible.
Debt is cheaper than equity.
But I'd rather avoid it.
Hey, I got a truck. I'll sell you right in my yard right now. Low miles, 3/4 ton.
Don't do it,
Yeah,
Alex.
getting through the border is going to be a problem.
Ranger.
It's an F-250. I'll sell it. Matter of fact, I don't even want to make anything on it. You just buy it and get me out from under the debt.
Yeah.
And I'll be happy.
But yeah, now that I don't have any more debts, I'm saving for probably a pickup. Yeah, that's the next big thing I need to get. So we'll see.
Just get yourself a GMC Nightmare Edition.
That doesn't sound reassuring.
Dollar at par, Bob? Oh, no, I can't take 50,000 Canadian dollars because I would owe
Yeah,
crap
that
ton
would
of
be a
money.
steal.
You still owe $60,000 on the truck.
50,000 US
Yeah.
is what I owe on that truck.
Yeah, that's a lot
only-
of money.
I don't even. Well, have you looked at the price of the new one? Look at the price of the new ones, and then tell me about how much money it is.
And is a huge amount.
I've paid a bunch in. On that.
Yeah,
And
truck for a lot.
That truck's only got less than 50,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It's a 2022 model, I think.
Well, my 2002 Chevy Malibu has only 117,000 kilometers, so that's maybe half of this. So
About the little bit
kilometers
more.
to miles.
How
Let's
many?
see. 117
117.
kilometers to
That's
miles.
110,000 miles. Just doing that in my head.
72,000.
72,000 miles?
Yeah, for a 22-year-old car.
That's because you don't drive it very much, right? You go to
No, I don't drive much.
So. The beekeeping mobile.
What's
I
good?
mean, I've given
Low
this
miles
car.
though, you could get a good trade-in value for that on a pickup.
I don't know. It's an old car, man. It's almost 23 years old.
Well, it's got to worth $400 or $500.
Yeah,
You know.
maybe. I've put a lot of money on repairs, far more than 400 or 500.
If you're gonna put repairs, put it into a pickup.
Yeah, I gotta buy the pickup first.
So, a base model 2025 F250 from
You don't scare Alex. Don't scare him.
from $90,070.
Yeah, but that doesn't even have carpet on
Dude,
the floor, Alex.
that's more than 3 years of my salary.
That's US, so it's only what 45 or so.
Only $2.3 million Canadian.
2.3 million Canadian.
Oh, I went the other way. I'm sorry.
And they throw in a castle in Ireland because it's cheaper than a house in Quebec.
That's
Oh man,
right, it is.
Canadian economy is going down the shitter.
There's
Yep.
actually a guy on YouTube that looks at homes in the cities of Canada and compares it to real life castles you could buy for less than the house in Canada.
Right. And the
Yeah.
houses that he's looking at in Canada are not anything to write home about, so to speak. They're crappy.
Yeah, I've heard stories of like really cheap houses. Like, I'm not talking about a donation. Somebody I've heard of got like a house for $1, but like I've heard that castle thing. Like, you can get them. You gotta like refurbish them, I suppose. But still, the land that comes with a castle is usually pretty big.
Alex, buy it for 10,000 and Bob can report it stolen after you get it across the border.
Wow.
That's a
But
good
you
one.
know what's so? I'll tell you what. The bad part about these new
That's the
vehicles,
best idea yet.
Yeah.
but the bad part about these new vehicles is they all have like OnStar and GPS navigation, right? So I'm pretty sure they can locate all of these vehicles pretty quickly. I mean, if I can start my car with an app, I'm pretty sure Ford can disable it from an app.
You just take the fuse out.
Just take
Yeah.
the few.
That's I hate the electronics on the new cars, the tracking, like almost the biometrics, the cameras inside the like above your eye level that constantly film you in some models. It's I hate that.
It's not
It
invasive at
creeps
all.
me out.
But as long as what you've got is working for you, Alex, then Go for it.
For
man.
now, the car is enough because regardless, I can't have more than 30 hives right now. And 30 hives is pushing it.
Evidently, I can't either.
Yeah, the good Lord has told me I can't have more than about
That's my limit.
17. So
I'm down a tad myself.
What did you have any more die-outs, Brad?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a rough fall. I don't think it's going to be as bad as last year, but it's still going to be a bit rough. So we'll see.
I hope they recover.
Yeah.
I haven't been watching beekeeping stuff in months. I'm taking off from the bees.
I don't fuss. Like I don't poke and prod and listen and infrared and stuff. I don't.
Oh, I haven't
just,
seen my bees since.
I'll just wait
kept
until
them.
April. The only thing that I can see is, they're shipping them overseas.
that doesn't surprise me because Brad had a stolen vehicle that he found himself. Didn't you say you found it yourself, or that the
cops found it?
Cops did find it.
Yeah, it was good timing too because it was like 2 days, and the insurance company would have written it off, and stupid cops found it. It's like, can't you do anything right?
Find it.
It's like, we found your cars, and they go, great.
So what happens if they would have found it after they wrote it off? You would have got paid, but then you would have got returned the vehicle.
No, the insurance company takes ownership, and they just auction it. And they just pay us for the car, which, we were kind of thinking, that'd be all right. They just pay us for the car. But of course, they'll try to rip you off, of course, like every insurance company. But anyway, what was I talking about?
I don't know.
I had something important to say.
Mad Mort says, good morning, ladies.
I don't remember what you were talking about. Sorry.
I did bring my bucket of
It's sure, Alex, if you've never owned a pickup truck, boy, you would love owning a pickup truck.
I almost got to drive, my uncle that got sick. I almost got to drive his pickup, and it's huge. I let my dad drive it, and he bumped, those mirrors that stick out.
Yeah,
the truck's that big.
Yeah,
and I decided he needed somebody to drive his van for transmission repairs. So I could either drive my uncle's pickup or the van. I decided for the van, but on the way to the garage, off from the garage, he almost tore off the mirror by bumping into another pickup's mirror. And he wasn't used to drive it, so I think it was a good idea not to drive that thing.
Oh, if it's a Ram, the mirrors are too wide anyway.
I think it's a Dodge Ram. I'm not sure. It's really high and really wide.
It seems wider than it is, but yeah, I know what you mean. But when you own a truck, everything you see looks like it'll fit in your truck. I could take that home. It's like when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Todd, when was your birthday?
Right? January 3rd. It was 2 weeks ago tonight.
And he turned how old?
23.
60.
60. So everybody owes me $1. Look on my website and then send me send me a message. I'll give you my address and you mail it to me. Something like that.
Imagine if the whole U.S. sent you $1 per person.
You want to hear a wild story? So, on game day, which won't mean much for Canada, but on college football game day, there was a guy that was behind the broadcast with a sign that said, "Need more beer money?" 3 million people cash apped him. He made $3 million on cash app from that sign.
Wow.
And what he did, and he was an Iowa State fan.
Where's my magic marker? I need to make a sign.
Is he donated? He bought 1 case of beer and donated the rest to the Children's Hospital.
That's next to the stadium, right?
Yeah, next to the
stadium.
I'd
Yeah.
buy 1 case of beer and a brand new pickup truck to haul it home, and
And then donate the rest as a tax.
and then donate the rest to Children's Hospital. They don't need a pickup truck.
So yeah, that's crazy.
That's wild.
Just
Wow.
because he was holding the sign and it went viral, somebody clipped
God.
that.
God bless America.
Yeah.
God bless.
Have you heard like the jokes? What's his? Wow, I forgot the name. Your president.
Which one? The one going out or the one coming in?
The one coming in.
We get a
How
new
can I
one on
forget his
Monday.
name?
Joe or
Trump. He
Trump.
made a joke about Canada being the 51st state.
Yeah.
oh, he's yeah,
And
He's just-
Trudeau's going to be the governor.
yeah,
And
Trump's
we've
gonna
renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
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 Trudeau would get on his knees and kiss the ring.
Don't get God. You lead me not into temptation. You know where my mind goes.
The one with the ruby?
We are live right now. I can't answer that how I need to answer it.
Got to kiss the ring. That's all.
Never mind.
Just leave it alone, Bob.
I'm going to say a word.
Yes, it's easier said than done.
I know. I know.
You're wrong for that in like 9 different ways.
Bob's brain thinks it. His mouth says it.
Yes, and
No filter in between.
those things process very fast in there.
It's like you're going. Oh, bring those words back.
And usually I don't even care, but it's just one of those things.
Sebastian's is fishing. He's off fishing.
Yeah, well, it's morning time for him. And we're going to own Greenland, Jonathan
Gonna own
Stevens says.
Greenland. Yep.
That's
Trudeau
it.
would miss. Yeah, Trudeau
I
would miss
doubt
for
Canada
sure.
would ever join the U.S. And Greenland sounds more like a mutual trade agreement, like permission for drilling oil and extract minerals for concessions. That's what would make the most sense.
I think that they should do some sort of. I'm not a fan of NAFTA, but
I don't even know what that is.
North
NAFTA.
American Free Trade Act.
NAFTA died 10 years ago, so that's okay that you're not a fan of it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but what I'm saying is I think there should be something like that between Canada and the U.S.
Well,
Because-
it always has been.
But our labor and stuff is more on par as far as our systems, right? It's not Mexican sweat equity and Chinese.
Definitely Mexico's
labor.
relationship economically with America is way different than Canada's. They're very different countries, right? So you can't paint them both with the same brush.
Right, but that's what they tried to do with that, right?
Does Canada border Greenland?
No.
Well, no, but we're close. There's some ocean.
There's no land border.
Yeah, there's
Ocean border,
border, but
yeah.
Well, ocean, okay.
Yeah.
a few hundred miles.
There's this little island. It's not very big. It's like 10 times the size of a school bus. That's in this little strait between where Canada and Greenland.
Yeah.
And there's this little island.
And
There's nothing on it. It's a rock, right? And so it's really hilarious. The every 6 months or something, the Canadian big ship will go up there and it'll dock at this little island. The guys get off, they stake a Canadian flag and leave a big bottle of Canadian liquor, and then they take off. And then 6 months later, the Dutch come up and they come dock at the little island, and they go and they take the flag out and steal the liquor, and they leave a bunch of Dutch liquor and put a Dutch flag, and they're fighting over this stupid rock, right? But it's just that's exactly what they do. But they always leave a big bottle of liquor. It's pretty
And
funny.
the island, it can't be more than a few tens of feet across.
Oh, it's not big. It's hardly any bigger than a ship, right? And it's a rock. There's nothing there. It's really funny.
Yeah, I don't really want to go down the politics because
Yeah,
I
that's
would
my fault.
say I know the beliefs of three of us on here are more conservative than the liberal. We'll say that. I don't know yours, Alex. That's why I didn't include you on that.
Oh, I'm offended.
But yeah,
Alex is offended. Well, he's a liberal.
no, you're liberal. Okay.
All right, Alex. Alex, here's a Maple Leafs or Senators?
He's not a sports fan either.
What's that?
Holy cow.
What do trees have to do with politics?
Maple Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs, or the Ottawa Senators?
I don't care. I don't watch hockey.
Hockey.
What about the Jets?
I'm surprised.
In Winnipeg?
Winnipeg Jets.
team?
Winnipeg Jets.
Or
Edmonton
the
Oilers. Vancouver Canucks.
This is like watching the Discovery Channel.
It's like
Alex
listening
is
to
a
Charlie
capitalist now.
Brown. It's like listening to Charlie Brown's
DC.
teacher. I don't know what he.
Wah, wah,
Wah, wah, wah.
Alex is a capitalist now.
Yeah.
Yeah, selling bulk honey, boy. You're capitalist. You're a honey mogul.
Yeah, I wouldn't say mogul, but yeah.
You've got now. Here's what's going to happen. That guy that owns that brewery has a buddy that owns a brewery or something somewhere
Oh,
else.
it's a small apiary. Well, small. He's got hundreds of hives, but he
Not
doesn't
anymore.
make enough
smaller
money.
scale
Not anymore.
than Ian. I think I don't know exactly how many, but I'd say less than 1,000. I think
And he doesn't
So-
make enough honey for his operation.
he
Brewery
had a lot of losses.
Oh, I gotcha.
So I have a story. There's years ago, there was one of the national radio station in Canada. They had a contest among their listeners, and they wanted to come up with, Canada's always looking for an identity, right? So they put out this contest, and they said, okay, in America, you have the saying that we all hear, as America as apple pie, right? As American as apple pie, right? And so they said, okay, so the contest is to finish the sentence as Canadian as. And so they got all these suggestions in from the viewers, and the winning entry was as Canadian as possible under the circumstances. I thought that was pretty accurate.
That's funny. That's it. As Canadian as maple syrup.
Don't tell that guy about the magic tree.
The magic tree.
The magic
Yeah, DC taxes turn liberals into conservatives.
bastard tree.
Spit my
Well,
coffee.
we've gotten quite a far away from the oncoming spring, which we were talking about.
We're not talking about Mike, but we're talking politics.
And now we're talking. We're not talking politics anymore. Till the next time we talk
Yeah,
politics.
spitting his coffee on that one.
Oh man! So
That's,
how about that spring build-up?
I
What are
haven't
you
checked
talking
my
about?
bees
Upcoming election?
since I put feed on them the last time. So to be honest, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they have some brood in there, but we're going through some cold snaps. So we'll see.
I'll
Monday
tell
and Tuesday are supposed to be pretty cold, so I really would like to get out there and put those supercharged pollen patties I got on there that are made with that straight syrup and pollen mixture with some apis in it, just to give them some carbs for the cold days, right?
I'll tell you what, I made some of that fondant up, that map from Sandy Valley Honey, shared with everyone. Holy cow. For me, it was a little trick. I had to make some adjustments when I was making it. But when I got the final product the way I wanted it, I took it out there. Holy cow, they jumped on it pretty quick. I had some warm days, and so I went out there on a Saturday, cracked a couple lids, and they had chewed all that stuff up. I put it in baggies, just like that other what's it called?
Ziploc?
No, the product is anyway. Hive Alive, right? And I cut a little hatch in the baggie and put that, on top. Man, the next week when I went out there, you could see the bees. They were basically going from the center outward. It was crazy. They jumped all over that stuff.
I need to get that recipe.
He's got a video on it.
I'll look it up.
Go to his website or his channel, Sandy Valley Honey. And
So
yeah, it's on there. It's easy. It's not hard to make. For me, it was a little different when I was mixing it with the mixer. He said he wanted his temperature down around 150 or 130, I think. Mine needed to be a little higher because when I got down that low, I made cement. I had literally made cement. But if you do that, save it, because what you could do is you could put it in warm water and make sugar syrup and leave it out, a community feeder, leave it out for them to eat. But it works great.
So it's not, my problem is not that it gets cool, as Doug says, down in, below freezing, in the 20s typically. That's not my problem. My problem is it gets cool below freezing, but then it warms up in the 50s where they're out flying. Yeah. So they're constantly eating their resource, right? That's the problem. It doesn't get cold and stay there like it does in Michigan and Canada and Pennsylvania and some of these other places, right? It gets cold, they cluster. The next day, they go out and forage, but there's nothing for them to bring home. So they're just burning energy and burning stores. Mm-hmm. That's where the problem is here. So
I've had that too this winter. It's been very mild. And that's why I say things are going to be early this year for me. I bet 3-4 weeks early, and I wouldn't be surprised if people across country see that.
Well, even Tom was saying that he's having it's unique, and I'm not trying to rub salt in the wounds or anything like that, but when they say that they're having problems because of that wish-washy temperature they had this year, that's what I have every year. Right. So that's what I deal with every year. And it's really challenging because they either have enough or they don't. And you don't, because it's cool out, you're not checking your bees all the time, which means you don't really know when they run out until you go out there and there's no activity coming out of the hive. You're just done. Yeah. Right. So it's kind of it is challenging. I mean, for me, obviously, I haven't been able to do a good overwintering job because it changes every year. Mm-hmm. But that's the challenges that we work with. Last year it was a little bit warmer than it is this year at this time, so I had already put pollen on and allowed started them to try to start brooding up a little bit earlier. And there you go.
So this graph is not linear, right? So if you're looking at, I'm going to talk C because it's easier to see that it's not linear, I think. So you have -20, -10, and 0 here. Okay, so if you have 0 here, you've got this much graph for 20 degrees, but above 0 you have this much graph for 20 degrees. Does that make sense? So this part of the graph is stretched out. So if you go from 0, let's say 5, because 5 is the ideal. 5 is the lowest metabolic rate. Okay, so you go down 5 degrees, 15 degrees, 25 degrees. The metabolic rate hits, watts per kilogram of bees. That's not really important. It's the relativity of the thing. So that's 25. So if you go up 5, another 10.
Yeah, in the 60s.
10, that'd be 15. That'd be 20. This would be 25. Okay. So you see how high and how much faster this goes up? When the temperatures go above 5 degrees, 41F, the metabolic rate climbs much faster and higher than it does when the temperature goes below 41F, right? So when you're constantly crossing that line like you are, Bob, that's stressful, because the bees don't know what to do. They don't change modes very easily or very quickly, and their metabolic rate, when they start to go up to 50 and 60 degrees, look at how high the metabolic rate is at 60F. It's
Yep.
almost as high as it is at minus 4F, which is really cold, right?
And I just constantly get that back and forth cycle, right? So the bees are they're always consuming.
That's right. That's right. So they're never at this nice constant, and this is where I have a distinct advantage over you. My winters are long, but I have this nice consistent 4 to 5C low
Where they
metabolic
cluster and they're
rate.
kind of in a torpor.
Yeah, I don't know about torpor. You can see them kind of moving around a bit, but regardless, that's the low metabolic rate, and that's why we keep them at that ideal temperature. They eat the least amount of feed. They're the least active. They're not flying. That's very important. So that's an interesting dynamic, difference between your climate and mine, for sure.
And it's just that constant up and down that really makes it challenging. And that's what Doug said here. He said, I used to think I would love to winter with Bob's conditions, but not anymore.
No. Yeah, I thought, how these guys down in South, how come they can't keep their bees alive? Like, that got to be easy. No, it's not. It's way worse.
Yeah.
I wish they would have made this graph linear, because you could see that it's a hockey stick. Okay. This line, if this was linear, this line would come down here like this, and it would go like this. It would just hockey stick right up. Because
not that you know what a hockey stick is, since you don't watch sports.
I've seen them.
I'm surprised that's not parabolic. You would think that if as temperatures rise, so would the right hand side of that graph.
So you're saying that at 68 it starts to go down.
That's just weird to me. At 86, 30C,
Yeah.
86F. Yeah, that's
at 86F, it's almost as low as it is at 41F.
So that
It's
just means
as low as 50.
But does that mean they're doing more cooling in the hive than flying, or?
Well,
I mean,
at this rate, 30C in the hive when they're brooding, the brood nest is about 32C. So they would not be working very hard to keep this brood nest warm. So their metabolic rate would likely go down.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
I'm guessing. I don't know. It's not my graph.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Go ahead.
Because they kind of have to work to keep it warm, and then they get some kind of thermal momentum, and then they don't have to work at it as hard as it goes down. When they're not brooding, you're running about 27C, right about here, and then when they brood, then it jumps up to about 32. So yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I might do that video. They're talking in the chat over here about insulated colonies. I've got 2 Lyson hives that are alive, and I've outside my only 2 Lyson hives. They're both alive. I could basically do a comparison video between, at this point, next warm day, winter here in my non-insulated hive compared to my insulated hives, because they've both been fed everything. They both had access to feed and everything, but you'd be able to see what the brood looks like compared to each other. And
I'll guarantee those insulated hives will do better. Don't forget, and DC said, and I'm going to pick on you, DC, and I don't know what you're thinking with that comment. Maybe you can help me understand your thinking. But you said insulation would make it worse. Insulated hives would make it worse in some ways. So expand on that, DC. If I can guess what you might be thinking is the idea that insulation keeps a hive warm. And it doesn't. Insulation doesn't keep things warm. You can't think of insulation as a heater. You can't think of insulation as something that makes heat to keep something warm. It's simply a decoupling. It takes that thermal bridge from inside and out, and it breaks that. So you've got an
It's a
outside
barrier.
and you have an inside. And then the better the insulation, the less that
Well, it's kind of like your
temperature
jacket, right?
coupling.
Like wearing
Yeah.
a jacket zipped up.
Yeah.
Keeps the cold air away from your body, and your body heat is actually
Body
what
can
makes
create
you
that
feel warm.
air gap. An air gap is the perfect insulation. Well, a vacuum is the perfect insulation, but an air gap is ideal insulation. That's what you want, is that air gap. There's a lot more nuances to that because there's eddy currents and stuff like that. But
You're right. A vacuum is the best insulation because
Yeah.
when I
there's
tell my
nothing
wife to
for
vacuum,
heat
it
except,
insulates me
pollution.
from her. Brad
Yeah,
heard
it's
that.
definitely-
I'm not touching that one. I've met Amy. She come up here and kick my ass.
You got a shovel in your hand somewhere there, Bob. Digging a hole.
I'm surprised she hasn't asked for the link to come in the stream because
I'm
usually
surprised he's still alive.
it insulates me from talking to her.
Oh, jeez.
Insulation slows the entropy
Ah,
process. You're talking above my pay grade here. The entropy
But
process.
speaking of insulation, I've seen a guy that has a farm in Saskatchewan, and what he does, those double windows, he puts two to create. There's an air gap in between the two window panes
Right.
and the two sets of window panes. So when he closes those windows, the insulation value goes through the roof because they're not only that, but the external one is lined up with the
You just did a Charlieism.
what's it called?
Insulation.
insulation.
Insulation. Insulation. Well, it's lined up with the humidity barrier. Anyway, there's a that all those things combine to like really increase the insulation value. Sorry, English isn't my first language, so
I know, but it is Charlie's, and he still does it. So don't feel
No,
bad.
that's good.
Where
So I missed it. Alex, where was this guy using these windows?
in his house,
In a house.
he set up his house. He built it himself. He set it up so it's passively heated. So the front faces south.
Yeah.
And he has a soffit that's the right length to let the sun in during winter, but block it out during summer. And all his windows are doubles, if you want, like I described earlier. Yeah.
So, do you
I'll be
have,
right back,
Alex,
guys.
in your part of the world, are double pane windows on your buildings pretty common?
They're common, except here. I have trash windows. This
So
building is from the 1950s, I think.
So it's old single pane. I have actually
Single-
one window
single
in my
pane of
house
glass
that's a
in
single
really,
pane.
yeah. It's panes of glass. It's slotted into tracks. It's horrible.
Yeah,
All my windows have this plastic film around them,
yeah.
and it
yeah.
have my
Well,
electricity.
honestly,
You just put
I
some
do that too.
styrofoam around them.
Some styrofoam.
Some
Styrofoam.
styrofoam.
I do that too. But I was just asking because here normally windows are double or triple pane, and that's the whole idea. They have that gap between the glass panes, and that traps the air, and they don't fill. That's not air in there. That's an inert gas. That's
Even more insulated
argon.
than air.
I think it's argon they put in there. I could be wrong. So it's an inert gas, which I think the inert gas doesn't develop eddy currents as easily as just
Well,
atmospheric
argon
air.
is heavier, so it doesn't slush as much. I would guess.
The
And so
But it's
he
inert.
also has,
Argon is inert, though. That's, I
yeah.
think, the idea.
I don't know if an inert gas is more conductive than. I could ask Google.
I think the idea is eddy currents, because any air gap with an open space like that, then you get eddy currents, and they go up and down and transfer the heat from one side to the other, and it's counterproductive for the insulation value. Krypton. They use Krypton. Krypton.
is it
I just
kryptonite?
Googled it up. It's approximately 30% better than air. Argon
Argon.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's slightly more insulative.
They stopped.
And the way he built his greenhouse also is like a double pane, except the exterior is hard plastic and the interior is a film, and it traps about a foot of air.
DC's got the thing. It helps stop windows from fogging up so much. Yes, it does, because if there's a leak in the seal, you'll see fog in the interior of it.
in between
And
the panes.
also, an inert gas like argon or nitrogen would
Pressure.
nitrogen's not inert, but a gas like that would not expand and contract as much as just atmospheric air with changing temperature conditions, like tires. People put nitrogen in tires because the pressure in the tire then is more consistent over the operating temperature of the tire, temperature range of the tire. Because atmospheric air just, that's why they say always check your tires when they're cold, because when they're hot, they'll be a lot more higher pressure. So it's just the baseline is when they're cold, check the tire there. Sorry, Bob, I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit.
No, it's all good. I'm
I've
just
seen argon used in blacksmithing too to make a pattern welded.
Yeah, I use argon in welding, in MIG welding.
To make pattern welded titanium, because titanium reacts to air really not violently, but reacts a lot to the air. It'll oxidize and make this like yellow rust thing.
Curtails oxidization, because it'll oxidize immediately.
So in order to make that, you have to make a little box and continue pump argon in it.
Yeah.
Then you can pattern weld it.
Yeah, they call it shielding gas. You can use CO2. It's not as good as argon, but you can use CO2 for that as well.
okay. So these windows on the bees do what exactly? Now that we can bring
You
it
look
back.
at them during winter.
So they uses the solar through the glass to help warm the inside.
You don't want to warm the inside, though. That's the whole point.
No, you want
You just
bees to do that. But I've seen this type of windows used in hives to make hives you can look into during winter.
And that's the point that I just want to stress so much is you don't want to heat that hive. You don't want a solar gain on that hive. You want that hive to be a consistent temperature acting on that hive all the time as much as possible. Now, when you're sitting outside, that's hard because you got changing atmospheric climate conditions, right? Warmer days and chemtrails. You got to deal with that. Warmer days and cooler nights and things. But what you can control is solar gain. And in my opinion, and my observations, is you do not want a solar gain on that hive. So that takes things like shading or wrapping of certain materials, certain color materials, or polystyrene. That helps as well, because even if the surface does warm up from the sun, the R value decouples that from maybe the inside of the hive. That's my opinion anyway. That's my belief, and I'm a very strong believer in that. Solar gain is a total negative for wintering bees.
Well, and I think your logic is because it will make the temperature fluctuate, right?
That's right.
So yeah,
And
I
in my
agree with you.
experience and my observations of my bees, now different people may have different bees, and it might not work the same way. But my bees, when the temperatures that are acting on the bees change, the bees don't actually adapt to that change very quickly, and they're slower than 12 hours to fully adapt to that change. And so they can't adapt to the change of day night. When the sun comes up and hits the hive, they got to change how they're acting in that environment. And then the sun goes down and the sun is gone from the hive. It's not warming it. They again have to change. So they're always lagging behind, trying to catch up with what's going on. And I don't think that's good for the bees at all. It's particularly, if if it's my environment and that hive is sitting out in the yard and it's minus 30 C and the sun comes up and hits that hive, maybe it's going to warm that hive 5 or 10 degrees. It's still going to be minus 20 C, right? So the point is that's not getting up into what Bob is dealing with, that cluster temperature, that magic range where those bees are going to change what they're doing. They're going to go from a clustering winter type scenario to it might be warm enough to fly kind of a scenario, right? Always going back and forth between those two. I think that's just the worst. If you've got way down cold, that's where we've got the advantage. It gets cold and it stays cold. And way below that temperature range.
And then it's cold enough where hive beetles can't survive and other things.
Yeah, winter is a great help against small hive beetle. They don't do well here at all. They keep popping in, but they get wiped out every winter.
Tell me about that. So, have you seen hive beetles in your colonies at all?
Me, yes, on my first year because the jackass that sold me.
Okay,
was,
I'm not talking about that because that's the import. I'm talking about endemic hive beetles.
Personally, no. Ever since I lost my hives and restarted, I haven't seen one. But I have seen reports.
Okay.
And because I'm an official beekeeper, so I'm registered,
Yeah.
and they send me like small hive beetle reports twice a year, and they, like I said, they pop like 5 or 6 places in Quebec, and then it disappears, and then they pop back in, always in small quantities. It's not bad from what I've seen.
So in the spring, when you first start to get into the hives, and I realize it's not your personal experience, but from what you know, in the spring when you first start to get into hives, you're not seeing any hive beetles. And then a
None
little later on
whatsoever.
in the season, they'll migrate up from some other area perhaps. And then
Probably.
you start to see a few.
I imagine that's the case because, like I said, I lost all my hives that took care of that killed everything,
Yeah. So,
and ever since, not a single beetle.
so are you pretty confident that the hive beetles, that are close by, I'll say, and I don't know how close by that is, but aren't surviving, like they're not procreating in the soil and going through their life cycle in your area?
As far as I know, in my area, there are none. But that was like about
But there
6
have
months
been.
ago.
You
There
had
has been.
and they died out. They didn't
Yeah.
take a hold. They didn't procreate in your area.
They don't last the winter.
What kind of
I'm
soil do
pretty
you
sure
have?
because there's no soil for them to go and reproduce in. So
I
Wow,
saw a
nice.
video
don't know.
today
I
that
don't know.
those
Sorry.
drones that they're finding over New Jersey and all that are Canadian.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Oh, there's UFO sighting of drones. It's a
Supposedly
mix.
one crashed in Boston, and it had a Canadian maple leaf logo on it and said something
Made in
Canadian
China?
on it.
Look, I've seen a remote control plane in the shape of a Cylon Raider from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, those drone UFO sightings are weird because some of them are genuinely what the fuck. A lot of them are just regular drones, and some of them are jokes like the RC plane I just mentioned. So I don't know. Look, even if aliens came in tomorrow, fine. That's very interesting, but the heck can I do about it? And besides, the old shtick of alien invasion doesn't make sense. If you look at resources, they're hyper abundant in space, so there's no reason to come here. Besides science, anthropology. So even if those are real aliens, I just don't care. They're not a threat.
Who knows?
Alex is going Lagrangian on all of us now.
I left when we were talking about mites, and I come back. We're talking about aliens.
Yeah.
What I
No,
missed?
I blame Bob with
Wrong
the
chat.
drone thing.
It's a different chat, Todd. You missed it.
Catch me up.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch the replay.
Trying to see if I could find that thing, but I can't. So, not worried about it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, but nothing to worry about.
They're here, though. The aliens are here. I saw the Navy video on it.
Yeah, even if that's like I said, even if that's the case, I'm not worried. There's no point in worrying.
No, nothing we could do about it.
Yeah, and like I said, like if you use, like I said earlier, if you use common sense, what reason would an alien race have to come here? I know it's completely off topic from the bees, but resources doesn't make sense. They're hyper abundant in space. Like the entire solar system is encased in a bubble of ice and minerals about a light year across. So there's no reason to come here for resources.
Yeah, there's no reason to fight a civilization to steal their resources if
Yeah.
you're an intergalactic society. It's like,
Yeah.
go somewhere where there are no beings and get your resources. There's
It's
lots
a
of
lot
them.
easier.
It's a
They
lot
want the
of-
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
If they come
They
here,
want-
it's
well,
for
they didn't come here for
science.
our superior intelligence. We know that.
Oh, but yeah, let's keep that. Go back to the bees. Otherwise, we'll get lost in the with the tinfoil hats.
It's like, you can conquer them. They're afraid of words.
Oh my gosh. Stop. Stop.
Well, they're not going to get my queen excluders, damn it. So, screw.
They
They
might,
can have
rip,
anything but that.
You have
They
the
might-
good metal ones.
they might rip the wings off of your bees.
I have the plastic ones that rip wings off. Yeah.
You do.
You know
So
what?
You
Yeah.
have those wingless bees now.
I'll tell you what those queen excluders will do. They'll screw up a drone's day because they get their head stuck in there and they
Oh,
get
yeah.
they get stuck. They're done.
They definitely mess up a drone's
Yeah, I
day.
noticed a lot of
They're doing
dead
that.
drones when I removed the last year when I started removing the queen excluders. There was a lot of dead drones stuck in them.
You know, I have to try something this year. I have to remember to try this year. My yield this year was very good. And I did something this year that I don't normally do.
Kept your bees alive during the honey.
Ooh.
You too soon?
Or rollerblades.
Wait,
That's just a joke. I'm just playing.
I mean,
The aliens made him do it, Brad. The aliens made him do it.
I got the implant yesterday.
He's
Bazinga!
a girly man. He's a girly man, Brad.
you little girly man.
Look, you're talking to a guy who dropped a 5-gallon bucket
Yeah.
of crystallized honey
Yeah.
into a bottling
Dumbass.
tank today, and
Ouch.
So I was saying
You were?
that it was really hot here for a while, and sunny hot, not just humid, crappy hot. It was like full, so the sun was really beating on the top of those hives and the boxes and stuff. So I propped up all my lids, so I effectively made a little bit of ventilation and an upper entrance. So the drones were happy.
they could
fly
get out.
out of
You
there,
believe?
and my yield was noticeably higher than it
You didn't have a
it,
bunch of
Because the
fat
drones
ass
were
drones sitting
eating.
around eating your honey crop.
normally is. So I just wonder if that, because I did talk to a beekeeper in Manitoba. I saw on a social media post that he made. He has a special ventilated cover that he uses in the honey flow, and I asked him about that. I said, "What is that?" And he told me it's ventilation, and it increases the honey yield. And I thought, okay,
Well, if you
maybe there's
think
something
about
to
it,
that.
if they are at the entrance trying to cool down the colony, they're actually going to suck air in from either the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, right? And the heat's naturally going to go up, so it's going to pull a.
And if you
somewhat
look in
away.
that entrance, many times, if you look in that entrance during the honey flow, there's bees in there just fanning like crazy, pulling air out of that thing. So they're ventilating that up.
You
which
sure
has gotta
that's
be-
not what's wearing their wings out, or is it the queen excluder?
No, it's definitely
No,
a queen excluder.
It's the heat.
You sure?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, when it's 111 outside here, you would think that they'd be fanning 24 hours a day vigorously.
That apiary sounds like a waterfall in the middle of the honey flow. It's just crazy. You can go in that apiary and you can hear it. You can stand in the middle of it. You can hear it. It sounds like a waterfall. All of the fanning, they're coming up out of those hives.
Wish I
It's
could go and
so loud.
see.
And they say, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Okay.
Sorry. You wouldn't let me comment on the ring, kiss the ring comments. So I have to get them in where I can get them in.
It's your stream, buddy. It's your stream, buddy.
Well, it is midnight, and there's still 29 people watching us ramble here.
Obviously, they're having fun.
See,
They've been on a
Flower
Beechat.
Street,
mean, 4
Flower
hours.
Street, I offset my boxes last year. I think it helped dehydrate the nectar. Yeah, that's recommended by some
Yeah.
people even here to offset the boxes.
Yeah, to leave like a small crack by pushing one of the boxes back. Is
Yeah.
that what he means?
You know what we
Yeah.
call those here in South Carolina? Hive beetle entrance points.
Yeah. So DC says he runs venting as well. I think there's something to it. I didn't see the bees using that entrance a lot. Like I didn't see them coming and going from those top entrances.
They guard the hell out of them.
Yeah, they're definitely guarding. Yeah. They're ventilating and whatnot.
You could
but
also make
I didn't-
the gaps small enough so bees can't get through.
Well, that's what this guy that I was talking to has. I think these special, covers or whatever he has, they're screened so the bees can't come and go. But I don't know that there's such a big problem. If you get later in the honey flow and particularly if you start using bee escapes and you don't close that top, that's a big problem, obviously. But I didn't see any robbing or anything. I didn't see a problem at all with them. And I've used upper entrances before as well.
See, that's why I use plastic.
Is that right,
You-
Doug? Well,
you
maybe we can
never
make a
see.
deal because I'm trying to go to metal. I got a bunch of plastics I'm going to sell.
You'd never see that 1/4 of a millimeter difference between the two metal
No, you
things.
can't see it.
And there you go. She goes up there. So
Yeah. Yeah, if you have a plastic one, they don't bend; they just break. Right? You can see that.
yeah.
The
then you
metal
know.
one, especially if if you've got a crew, you've got people working for you, you stick that hive tool in too far,
Yeah.
they pry up on it and then they bend that excluder, and you can't
I
really
have-
see that.
If I have a break in the plastic, I'll just take a little square of duct tape and put it on both sides. It'll stop them for a while, and if they don't chew it, then it's good to go for however long it stays on there.
Yeah, I've been using it as a good excuse to throw them out. I'll make things out of them. I'll cut them up and put them on the entrances of like swarm traps or swarm boxes, on
Yeah.
my cell builders, stuff like that. I'll use them for that. That's what plastic ones are really good for.
You believe we've been going for an hour and a half?
No.
That's only an hour and a half that we were live. We were chilling for 2 hours before that. Yeah.
Plus the 2.5 hours this afternoon.
2.5 hours this afternoon. It's been kind of busy in the bee front.
Well, we're gearing up.
I actually got half of my honey house. It's kind of organized this afternoon. And put my nice cover on top of my uncapper. So it's I feel like I accomplished something. It's still a wreck in there for the most part, but I'm getting it. It's getting there. So just working on it slowly.
Sound like me in my wood shop. It's always a disaster.
Well, every time you get something, like I'll get something fixed and then I'll say, oh, you know what? I need to do this. And then I go back in there and have to dig to get what I want, which then everything's disorganized again. So Doug says probably the metal ones are coming from China.
Probably.
Not sure about their tolerance.
Likely.
Yeah.
My thing is I've also got some propolis traps, and they look a lot like queen excluders. So if you're in a hurry and grab the wrong one, screwed. That's what happens.
Yeah, that doesn't work at all.
Oh, good night, Roy.
We were just talking about that.
Didn't I?
Yeah, we were.
Literally a couple hours ago, talking about having a stream.
Good for
We're
you.
smoking cigars and having our glass, the gentleman's
club.
The gentleman's beekeeping club.
I can't see the chat. I have a cat on my table. Come on, get off the table.
Well, you know what? It is after midnight. So probably going to wrap this one up, man.
Well, this was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks
fun.
to the
Just
people for hanging out with us.
Things.
That's really nice.
Talking and hanging out.
Have a good night, everyone.
No, Anita, you can hang around. We're just talking about in the future. Look at. It's Roy.
Look at
Roy. Roy.
I just popped in to say goodnight.
We do appreciate you, sir.
I thought you refilled your glass.
I could, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
I'll be just like Bob here in another couple minutes. So,
and Bob's not even drinking.
I'm not even drinking. I just got wound up.
oh, good God. Hey, you guys have a great night and love your chat.
All right. Thanks, Roy. We appreciate it.
Have a good one.
All right. Night.
So Malcolm's asking about the
hole for the yellow plugs.
That's a 2-inch hole
For your feeder hole?
36
For my
millimeters, isn't
feed hole. Yeah, 2-inch.
50 millimeters, 2
I
inch?
use a Forstner bit. 2 inches. It's about 50 milliliter.
Yeah.
Milliliter.
Yeah.
millimeter.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's a 2-inch because it's a 2-inch plug. It's tapered, so it's a little smaller at the bottom than it is at the top. And I use a Forstner bit, so it's very accurate 2-inch. If you use a hole saw, that's not going to be accurate. It's going to be bigger.
That's what we tell everybody.
Like what Matt said. You
2 inches just popped in to get backstage.
Oh man.
DC's gonna go watch a movie.
Okay, DC. Have a good night watching a movie.
Well, guys and gals,
Absolutely.
We appreciate all of you. We just were hanging out and decided, we were watching Charlie, and Charlie ended. And so we're like, you know what? We're just chilling. Let's go hang out with our B-Buds.
Yeah.
So, I had 2 elderly guys with me, so I figured I would indulge them and go live. That's why I named it 2 Old Men and Bob Beechat tonight.
Young guys have no respect for their elders.
Yeah.
I mean, Todd was finished with high school when I started.
Well, let's not get carried away, Bob.
Well, I graduated in 88. When did you graduate?
83. So
you were in college. You were finishing college when I was graduating high school.
Well, you may have a point, but I was just trying to downplay the suggestion. Since you brought the numbers in, dang it,
Hey, kiss the ring.
Not the one with the ruby.
The whole backstory you guys aren't privy to.
And we'll leave it at that.
And we'll leave it at that.
That's no backstory.
But anyway, guys, everybody have a good evening, and we'll talk to you on the next stream.
Bye, good night, everybody.
Later.